Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about 5 different tips for shooting inexperienced models. And I wanted to do this video because I have actually done a similar video to this in the past, but I think it's about time that I updated it because that last one was years and years ago. So I thought I'd talk about a few tips today about photographing people who may be very inexperienced, whether it be a new face in a modeling agency or whether it be someone in your family or friends group that you're photographing, or you might be starting out and using friends and family for that sort of thing. So I wanted to talk about a few things that will hopefully help them along in their first couple of shoots with you, or if you are photographing someone who's never done a shoot before, these will hopefully be helpful tips. So I'm going to go straight into the video and talk about the first point, which is going to be using posing references. And it is a really important thing that you do this. I think it is so important to have a mood board with posing references. Posing references will be your lifesaver when you are working with inexperienced models, and it will really help them as well because at least they have something to go by. They have a reference and they can see what kind of posing you're after in the shoot. So you can even really work with them to do these different poses, and it's going to be so much more helpful. And even if you've got a mirror or something like that to help them sort of see themselves as they're doing these poses to the reference sheet, I think it's really, really important that you do this, and it's really going to help them out. Posing is one of the hardest things, I think, for inexperienced models to do, and it is really awkward when you've never been in front of the camera before. I would always recommend having a reference there for them. The second tip is to actually keep things quite natural and outdoors. I find that photographing models who are inexperienced outdoors tends to be a lot easier than photographing them in studio. In studio, you don't always have a lot to work with. You are quite confined to a backdrop and a chair, and you may not also have as many props to work with, whereas outside you can kind of work with the elements a bit more. You can pose against different backdrops, you can play with your hair in the wind. There's just a lot more things that you can kind of do and a lot more elements to work with outdoors, I find. And I think it's a lot easier for different people and different models to relax outdoors than it is in studio. There's not so much focus just on them. I think it's quite intimidating for a lot of people to walk into a studio for the first time. So if you can, I tend to find that working outdoors or in natural light or in natural settings tends to be a little bit easier. The third tip is actually going to be a little bit centered around tension within the lips and the mouth. And I find that this is the number one thing, apart from posing, that tends to be an issue with a lot of inexperienced models. And it's something that they tend to forget what's going on kind of with their facial expression, but also the tension in their mouths. And this tends to be a very, very common problem. So the one thing that I would direct those inexperienced models to do is to actually just part your lips slightly. That's a really good term to use for them, so that it doesn't look like they've got too much tension in their mouths and they look really frightened or awkward or anything like that. I think that's a really good tip to use. So if your model's got tension in their mouths, definitely give that one a try, and hopefully that will work out. The fourth bit of advice that I have is to actually tell your model to keep changing up their pose or expression every time the shutter clicks, because I think that helps get them in a rhythm and helps get them in a routine of starting to move quite a bit more. And make sure that this is only slight movements. It can be slight movements that they can do, but it's really important to get them moving, to get them changing things up, because that's another issue that tends to arise with inexperienced models, is that you can't get many different poses or expressions. It tends to all be the same until you tell them to do otherwise. And the way that I like to work, and the way that a lot of other photographers like to work, is they like to have their model moving constantly and to really getting into doing different poses without the photographer always having to say so every time the shutter's clicked. And my fifth tip is to be as relaxed and as encouraging as possible. I think this is probably one of the most important tips out of the lot, because I find that although it might sound obvious to do this, your frustration can really show on the shoot day, and it's important to sort of hide that if you can, and to be as encouraging as possible, because I think every model who's inexperienced or feeling awkward on their first couple of shoots is going to feel so much more relaxed if you're encouraging them and you're saying that they're doing a great job and really directing them and giving that advice and that encouragement that they need throughout the shoot. It will make them feel so much more relaxed at the end of the day, and you really want them to be relaxed on the shoot for so many different reasons. And I think that that's the best way to go, and to make sure that you've kind of got that good vibe going on the day. All right, guys, so I hope you really enjoyed this quick video on 5 tips for inexperienced models. If you have any tips for inexperienced models, feel free to put them in the comments section below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please click the subscribe button and the notification bell to make sure you see all the videos I have in future. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.